Welcome to 15 Minutes Health, your source for clear, evidence-based insights in nutrition, neuroscience, longevity, and everyday wellness. Each video delivers science you can trust, designed to help you build a stronger, healthier life, all in under 15 minutes. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss practical, science-backed tools that can improve your health for the rest of your life.
All right, let's talk about building muscle. Today, we are cutting through all the noise to give you a definitive, science-backed blueprint that actually works. You know, if you're trying to figure out how to build muscle, it's a mess out there, right? The fitness world is just flooded with conflicting advice, and it's almost impossible to know who to believe. So today, we're going to ignore all of that. We're going to focus only on what the highest level of scientific evidence tells us is the most effective way to grow. Look, building muscle isn't some kind of magic trick. It's science. And it all boils down to these four non-negotiable pillars. First, you need the right training stimulus to even signal the need for growth. Second, you gotta fuel that process with smart nutrition. Third, and this is crucial, you have to recover because that's where the growth actually happens. And finally, you can add a little edge with proven supplementation. If you can get these four pillars right, progress becomes predictable. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basic science. Then we'll break down each of those pillars: training, nutrition, supplements, and recovery. And then we'll put it all together into a simple, actionable blueprint you can take with you. Okay, let's dive right into the science. Because if you don't understand why something works, it's really hard to nail down how to do it right. The big word we're going to be using is hypertrophy. It sounds complicated, but it just means muscle growth. Now, what's the number one thing that triggers it? The research is crystal clear. It's something called mechanical tension. When you lift a weight that your muscles aren't used to, it creates tension in the muscle fibers. This tension is detected by sensors that kick off a chain reaction, basically shouting the message, hey, we need to get bigger and stronger so we can handle this next time. And that right there leads us to our first and honestly most important pillar, training. I mean, you can have your nutrition and recovery dialed in perfectly, but without the right training stimulus, your body has absolutely no reason to build new muscle. It's the foundation for everything else. For years, I mean decades, the rule was you had to lift heavy to get big. Period. But then a game-changing meta-analysis from Brad Schoenfeld and his team looked at all the research. They compared heavy lifting to light lifting and found something that shocked a lot of people. As long as the sets were taken close to failure, muscle growth was basically the same. So what's the deal here? If it's not just about the weight, what is it? Well, it all comes down to effort. Pushing a set close to failure, to that point where you're really struggling to get another rep, that's what forces your body to recruit all of its available muscle fibers, from the small ones to the big, powerful ones. That high level of effort is the key to unlocking the growth signal. The weight is just the tool you use to get there. This slide is huge because it shows us that volume, which is just the total number of hard sets you do for a muscle each week, has a clear dose-response relationship. If you do less than about 10 sets a week, you'll see some growth, sure. But the real sweet spot for most people is somewhere between 10 and 20 sets per week. Once you start going way beyond that, you hit a point of diminishing returns, where all the extra work and fatigue isn't really giving you much extra growth. Okay, so besides volume, the research points to a few other really practical things we can lock in. First, it seems hitting each muscle group about twice a week is better than just once. Second, don't rush your rest times. Taking a solid 2 to 3 minutes between hard sets lets you perform better and get a higher quality stimulus. And finally, you don't actually have to go to absolute failure, where you can't even move the weight. Stopping just 1 or 2 reps short is super effective for growth and much easier to recover from. All right, so we've nailed the training, we've created the signal, but a signal is useless without the materials to actually build the thing. That's where nutrition comes in. The training is like the foreman on a construction site yelling, "Build the wall!" But nutrition is the truck that actually delivers the bricks. And this is so important. The two have to work together. A huge study in 2022 confirmed what we suspected. Just chugging protein shakes does absolutely nothing for building strength. It's the powerful combination of resistance training and enough protein that makes the magic happen. One is pretty much useless without the other. So how much protein do you actually need? Well, the science has given us a really solid, clear target to aim for, and that number is 1.6 grams of protein for every kilogram of your body weight each day. And this isn't just a random number. It comes from a massive review of the research that found once you get to about 1.6 grams per kilo, the muscle building benefits just level off. Your body can only use so much protein to build new muscle at once. While going a little higher, up to 2.2 grams, can be helpful if you're in a diet, anything beyond that for muscle growth is likely not doing much extra.
But it's not just about hitting your total protein number. How you get it in matters too. Think of it like flipping a switch for muscle building, a process called muscle protein synthesis. You want to flip that switch on periodically throughout the day. So instead of cramming all your protein into one giant meal, splitting it up into 3 or 4 moderate meals gives you the best results over a 24-hour period.
All right, let's talk supplements. And let's be real, this is probably the most hyped up, confusing, and frankly, misleading part of the fitness world. So we're going to ignore the 99% of junk out there and focus on the one thing that actually has rock-solid evidence behind it. That supplement is creatine monohydrate. And honestly, if there's one supplement that's earned its reputation, this is it. It's the most studied sports supplement in history. It works by giving your muscles more readily available energy, which lets you squeeze out an extra rep or two on your hard sets. And over time, that little bit of extra work adds up to significantly more strength and muscle. And the best part? It's ridiculously simple. The science is settled on this. All you need is a consistent daily dose of 3 to 5 grams. That's it. You don't need to do any of those complicated loading phases you might have heard about. Just take it every day. Okay, on to our last pillar. And this might be the one people skip the most: recovery. And you have to get this in your head. You do not build muscle in the gym. In the gym, you break muscle down. You create the reason to build muscle. The actual building, the repair, the growth, that all happens when you rest. And what's the king of all recovery tools? It's sleep. And it's not even close. Not sleeping enough is it's a muscle growth killer. It tanks the hormones you need for growth, it directly reduces muscle protein synthesis, and it makes it impossible to train hard. On the flip side, getting a solid 7.5 to 9 hours of quality sleep every night creates the perfect hormonal and physiological environment for your body to get bigger and stronger. This timeline really tells the story of what's happening after your workout. Right after you train, your muscle is actually in a state of breakdown. But then, over the next day or two, your body goes into overdrive repairing that damage. And here's the cool part. If you give it the fuel and rest it needs, it doesn't just repair back to baseline, it overshoots. It builds back bigger and stronger than before. That process is called supercompensation, and it's literally where muscle growth comes from. We've gone through a ton of science, so let's boil it all down into a simple, straightforward blueprint you can start using today. So here it is. This is your checklist. Train each muscle about twice a week, aiming for 10 to 20 total hard sets. Push most of those sets to within a rep or two of failure. Rest a good 2 to 3 minutes between them. Fuel it all with 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight, spread out over 3 or 4 meals. Consider adding 3 to 5 grams of creatine every day. And lock it all in by getting 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. That's it. That's the plan. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? Building muscle isn't a mystery. It's not a game of chance. It's a science. And when you stop chasing fads and just consistently apply these evidence-based principles, you take the guesswork out of it. The question isn't whether you can build muscle. The question is, what will you build with a system that's designed for lifelong strength?
Thanks for watching 15 Minutes Health. If this video helped you, consider subscribing. Your support allows us to keep creating clear, science-backed content to help you stay healthier, stronger, and better informed. See you in the next video.